Thank you, everyone. And I know that it's a little bit light here, but a lot of details over here that I think we could always look back in YouTube channel and others. And some things that we're going to share over here is really around the idea of DevOps. Then we're going to get into DevSecOps. Then we're also going to talk about what's the big difference. And really, the most important question in your mind right now is, what has AI got to do with all of this stuff? And we're going to kind of talk a little bit more about that. Before I go ahead, the guy who's speaking to you right now, my name is DJ. I work for IBM. I manage their global Salesforce assets. This just means that basically any Salesforce accelerator or asset that's built by IBM in preparation for a client, all of those assets come under me, and I have a team of around 60 people, offshore, and a lot of matrix organizations and so forth. I've also written a book. I don't know if anybody ever had a chance to check that out, but it's called Salesforce Architect's Handbook. It's sold a little bit over 15,000 copies worldwide, translated in 2 languages, English and German. And really a lot of, I shouldn't speak too much about this, but I think the key part about this is really that it covers every aspect of Salesforce, and one of which is DevOps. So if you wanted to kind of hear a little bit more about where the thought process and mindset, because I may not be able to cover everything about DevOps, but chapter 9 in the book is definitely going to be your favorite. I want to start off here by just checking with people, what is DevSecOps, or maybe even DevOps? Just anybody, and anybody who kind of answers diligently gets a copy of my book.
Not promising diligent, but I can definitely. I think if you think of a development process as a pipeline, so in my mind, I think DevOps is the process where basically you take an application of a code all the way from first line it's written to all the way it's presented towards the customer. So whatever that, so the dev part is the development part of it, ops part is the operationalizing.
Got it.
Say the second part, I think that's probably security.
Anybody else wants to take a chance? I mean, that is good, by the way. That is good. That is definitely good. But
so, in an environment where you have multiple teams, working for multiple geographies, right? So from how you formalize the whole process from build to deploy, I think that is more the DevOps piece. If I put in some layman's words, right?
So team collaboration, how do you coordinate with everybody?
You have to define the process, and then you have to define, create some tools which people can follow, right? So the dev to deploy, the process is very optimized and non-conflicting when you are working in a very global environment.
Yeah.
Makes sense?
Yep. It makes sense. So I think like what you're referring to is like team collaboration, global coordination, so forth. Great answers, These are definitely part of DevOps. The one thing that, and again, by the way, all of these are right answers. I think the one way that when I kind of manage with my team, and I've been kind of sharing this, philosophy, is that DevOps is really a culture. The way I dress, the way I kind of walk out, the way I talk to people, what conditions, what criteria. I'm using a template from probably previously, like even when I'm speaking to you right now, I've been probably trained several times to do this, right? And DevOps is no different than that. DevOps is any activity that you really do, even in your regular life, and how well do you do it, and how you follow a particular tradition or culture. This is one of the reasons why when people criticize a type of DevOps, it's like almost kind of criticizing a culture, saying, whatever you're doing is, at the end of the day, the concept is like, we just need things done. That's it, and we develop something and we operate with it. That's DevOps. And when we talk about security now, I'm going to be serious about one thing. People are kind of crazy about DevSecOps, but now this word is going to come into DevSecOps, compliance, regulations, this, that. They're going to create all this. I almost feel like they could have just called it a culture.
Yours didn't cut out. Yours did not cut out.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry about that. So where I go with this is that, when we think about implementing DevOps, don't think about tools. Don't think about like what the developer is going to do, what not going to do, and what not. It's a culture that's going to involve the entire process of servicing your customer and keep servicing them. I speak to a couple of people and they say like, oh yeah, DevOps, we'll just kind of give this tool and we'll deliver this and we're done. We got our signings bonus and everything, move on. What happens to that customer? Your company is going to work with that customer, and will ask you to keep doing it. And the next time you go into the project, guess what? If you didn't follow your culture properly, So I want to kind of really emphasize the idea that DevOps, and now it's called DevSecOps, and tomorrow it will be called DevSecOps and some other word. These are all part of like your entire development process, and you have to kind of look at it from that angle. Now, the key three things that I really kind of look into for now, just for our conversation, is really the development capability. There are really 6 archetypes, as you would call it in DevOps, methodology, the team that you mentioned, the CI/CD, the version control, the testing methodology. These are all just different things that you do in your culture as like you kind of follow through and live through and do through things. But the key part about that is, like you said, collaboration. We are all people with like a lot of skills, a lot of passion, a lot of attitudes, and it's always difficult to do one thing the same way. One of the sessions that I did, I actually handed out papers to everybody, a single paper. I wanted to do it today, but it was going to be a little bit more time consuming. And I asked them to prepare some kind of a design and throw it towards me, And I can tell you one thing, the simplest one would have been a paper plane, right? I got thrown like a paper ball directly at me, I said, your requirements were straight. Just prepare something, fling this to me, and this person just crumpled it and threw it. And others like took time. They even draw with the rulers. They said like, oh, this one didn't fold right, and they tried even twice. They even asked for an extra paper. Why I say this is because everybody was right. Their planes got over to me. But as a customer, I need to make sure that that plane can be reused and is secure. And this is where our security comes in. Oftentimes, we think about security as an afterthought. And this is where we are bringing in security. And how do we do that? Oh, sorry. Did I go the wrong way? Oops, I'm going the wrong way. Okay. Sorry. And this is what I'm talking about when we're talking about DevOps in a very general fashion. We talk about DevOps as like things left off. I had a customer. This literally happened, by the way. Because I couldn't explain to the team what's going wrong. Why are we failing? There are bugs after bugs after bugs. I'm on this project and I'm like, why are we not getting this right? What's going on? I sit with the business analysts, I sit with the testers, I sit with the architects, I sit with everybody, and everybody gives me a vision of like what they thought it was. And this is what that vision was. The client wanted a Ford F-250 sports car, and what they get at the end of the day after developing and your DevOps process is that motor. And guess what? When I bring in the security picture over here, the keys of the motor were never delivered to the client because the client never asked for the keys. So you're like, excuse me, how do I, even though I don't like what you gave me, how do I drive this? You never had the requirements. This is what happens. We don't think holistically. We don't think about DevOps holistically. We think about DevOps as like a cost center, Now, next thing that I will say is like, what is DevSecOps? It is integrating security in there. And as I say that security will be added, testing will be added, compliance will be added, regulatory facts will be added, anybody who's a developer is like super worried. It's like, oh my God, this guy might be talking nice, but it's so much work. It's like I'm adding more work for developers and admins. And essentially, I'll come to that. This is where your tools come in. Somebody has done the hard work for you. All that Flowsum, Copado, and everybody does. Can you not do that without them? You can. The reason why you do it is because it will save you the time so that you can use your precious energy really kind of focusing on clients' requirements and converting them into consumable products. And these tools have all the lockstep, the stage gates, and everything out there to get you from point A to point B. It's kind of like you taking the lawnmower to the grocery store and saying, I want to do shopping. You cannot, But if somebody gave you that truck that was there in the earlier thing, you can go to IKEA and buy the entire IKEA furniture and build your entire house. And this is what we're talking about. The key about tools is not so much about giving somebody money, choosing. It's like about the quality of work that is going to get delivered for your clients. And that's really the DevSecOps. What are the benefits? I don't want to. This is kind of like the most cliche slide of all. Improved security posture, faster time to market, and like increased agility. But let me break this down to a little bit more. Whenever I talk about like DevSecOps, my client says, you're increasing money, you're increasing costs, it's automated testing, this, that. I said, do you know that you're using Salesforce, right? So like, yeah. And they're like, do you know how many admin licenses you have? He's like, well, I don't know, like 20, 50 or whatever. I said, do you know who's the most powerful person in Salesforce? It's like the architect, the CTA. I don't think so. Not at all. The person who's the most powerful is a Salesforce administrator. There are over 49 ways of kind of doing security in Salesforce. Ownership-based, role-based, this, that, whatnot, everything 49. And that is the only control that you have, is that trusting an admin saying, I put the record pages the right way. What happened then? What happened when another admin or another developer merged the entire boxes? What happened then? So these are the biggest fears. And when you do DevSecOps the right way, not only are you logging in what changes are being made in the sandbox, what are being promoted across, but also you're passing on all the security parameters such that even the client's data, client's secret sauce, which is the business logic, is been secured from any kind of adulteration or any kind of errors. And that is the key when we add SecOps. And security is primary, and this is going to be more primary when we talk about AI. People you don't know. These are computers who are going to do all these things. Shift left security. Who over here knows shift left? Or what does that concept mean? Not you. That would be because he's a person.
It's about shifting the responsibility earlier in the development process.
Close. Give me a little bit more. What does that mean?
Instead of waiting to the end to test something or make sure its security parameters are up to speed, they put that responsibility earlier in the development process so that it's not left to the end and possibly breaks things.
Perfect. Lauren,
All right.
we have a winner, So we'll get you a copy of my book for sure. Not that you need it,
I'll take
but but this is the key. This concept is so important. Oftentimes I'll tell you a story. A particular client in the banking industry, I'll never name any of my clients. Please know that, and do not try to guess it, because I'm going to add a lot of mix into it. But a banking client kind of said, hey, we just want a portal update. Just want to update these portal with certain things, etc. We made those changes. They said, well, it's an LWC, LWC, which is like our code, just kind of put this up there and this will work and so forth. We said, what about security? It's like, well, we have our admins, they will figure out the security. You just build the code for us and put it up there. We did all that stuff. 1 month later, 2 a.m, I get a call. And I have to jump on a conference call, and then I have to fly down to New York for something that has been breached. I still don't know what it is. It took almost 5 months. I mean, of course, we shut down the portal. We kind of completely took it down before even any question, before it could go anywhere and whatnot. No breaches were happening. It was a white hat, luckily. So we had the hacker who had contacted us. But, long story short, I woke up and I kind of talked to them, and eventually we realized that we never applied security to the LWC. It was running in system context. For anybody who doesn't know, system context means that that particular component has the ability to do whatever it wants to do. If the code is correct, it will do it, and in every condition. And sometimes people think like, oh, that's not a big problem, but it is controlled. No, because as conditions change, and in the future, when you implement AI, you don't know all the variables of what the outcomes you need. It is very important for your business to run where you know the outcomes that are coming out of your system. And you need to be very well versed who's getting it, why they're getting it, and why they shouldn't be getting it. Because this could really like break or make your business. And that is the real reason for shift left, because security cannot be an afterthought. Security has to be forefront. The client stays up in the night. Architects like me stay up in the night because this doesn't get done. And then we have provided all the requirements and this doesn't get done. And I'm not blaming this to the developers or admins or anybody, but at a very high level, they're also under pressure. I want this done in this sprint itself, But I think like that's the reason why I say this is a culture. We have to improve that in the company, and architects to clients to everybody should know why shift left effort in your estimates is so important. Put that in your estimate, put that in your effort, put that to every client and say, this is the reason why, so I can save you some, sleepless nights. And we need to do this. And with that, you can actually have tools that help you so that it expedites it. And then justify the cost of your tools with what I just said about security and about implementation. Security as a code, another principle that we'll bring up, but it's one of the best practices where essentially when you're writing the code, like the LWC, you're kind of ensuring that, what are the system parameters and securities you have developed. So security as a code is definitely important and should be part of every developer skill set. I'll also mention this, that DevSecOps has also created an opportunity for developers to be highly skilled. Today, when I hire in IBM or I look at somebody's resume in IBM as a developer or an admin, I ask them, how much of your security implementation did you do and how did you do it? There's some developers who will be like, I comment this, I do this, I do that, or whatnot. Great. The best developers that I've hired, they've said like, I've created a test-based code and I've written the test cases first, and then I've done security. The idea is that I pay a premium for those kind of developers and admins, and so do my clients, because the product that comes out of it reduces architect level effort in troubleshooting and getting 20 people on a call. All of that costs the company a lot of money and reputation risk, which we want to reduce, right? Some key principles of DevSecOps, what every tool or you should actually at least have. Automation. This is not about just testing automation. Automate everything possible. Everything you can. Collaboration. People don't get along, but people know facts. If you write your notes, codes, reviews, things, you don't have to have a micromanager working with you. You really are kind of working the tool and providing your inputs and outputs and making sure that the I's are dotted and T's are crossed. And then lastly, continuous monitoring. This one is the key one in DevSecOps, by the way. A lot of people, they just take on projects. They kind of say, okay, we'll monitor during our build. What is there to monitor? There's nothing in production. There's no risk. You can break the whole system and rebuild it tomorrow. Doesn't really matter. What monitoring really matters is, while I'm building this and I've launched anything out there, I want to ensure that it is getting monitored and it is getting kind of like remonitored, and you actually in your hypercare, as well as any of your support plans, have monitoring in there, which is another reason why you can get the benefits of the tools, because the tools will find those and hair comb out all those lint that you carry on, What are the challenges in implementing DevSecOps? I won't take too much time. I will, keep it to the number one being cultural resistance, integration with existing processes and tools, and lack of skills and expertise. Again, another area where like lack of skills and expertise in DevSecOps, there is also in Salesforce now DevOps Center, which they have brought it even further in terms of like what you can do in Salesforce as an admin, not even as a developer, but you also have tools. And a lot of people have asked me the most important questions like, if Salesforce has DX and DevOps Center, what's the need for Flowsim, Copado, or anything as such? I mean, I'm just being very agnostic, by the way, if it's okay with everybody, And the reason for that is, your client doesn't have just Salesforce. Your client has AWS, client has Tableau, client has Informatica, client has Azure. Client has to integrate with everything. And when you are thinking about DevOps from just the lens of Salesforce, you're only building an island of Salesforce. And I'm not saying that's a bad product. As a matter of fact, Salesforce is assisting us in making this even a closer mile to your DevOps tool than before. Maybe you have less configurations in Flowsim now, because of DevOps Center and how you integrate the others so that you go through. And this is the other part why a tool becomes more vital in DevSecOps. Security doesn't mean just writing the code. Security means also checking your integration code if you're integrating with the tool from day one. What are the access rights that the tool will have? Like, let's say AWS or calendar or whatnot. Whose calendar can it show? Whatnot. Even the smallest custom notifications and other things have to be kind of, tested for security and who can do it. And those things, tools can help you with because it's a lot and it could be overwhelming. Lastly, some of the DevOps best practices, as I was mentioning, like it's implement security as a code. So, for all developers, think of security is code. There's code and there's security as code. And that's as simple of an explanation I can give you for that. The second is definitely create a lot of stage gates. Tools are good, but just by putting a tool in there or Flowsum or, anything saying, it's going to just beep and tell me like, everything's working when it breaks. No, do a stage gate. The tool is an accelerator to help you with your DevOps process, not like the final answer. Everything you put in, you have to test, verify, check it. So do that, and embed like stage gates in different stages of your process, after a huge feature has been done or whatnot. And lastly, like, perform regular security monitoring, whether it is Shield, whether it is the tool itself providing anything, the static code analysis, capabilities and so forth. So keep doing that because, the worst case scenario is that you will find a bug, and the best case scenario is that you don't find anything. And the worst to worst case scenario is that you didn't find anything and there was a bug, So that's the reason why a tool partnering with you makes you more powerful as a developer, as an architect, as a delivery person. I won't go through all of this, but integration of DevOps in pipelines, CI/CD, some of the key best practices around there. There is security testing, there is security gates, and then there is like also applications in production, testing that for checking what is the regression impact on that. Lastly, some of the DevSecOps tools and technologies, as I had promised that I'd be agnostic. By the way, Flowsum is a wonderful tool. If somebody is not already looking into it, you'll get a chance. And I would say like still play around with it after that. I am a big fan of it myself. That's the reason why I'm here. But without kind of naming any names, static code analysis, you need this. Right now, you have it also in your Microsoft VS Code and others, but also tools like Flowsum and others will also provide many of those kind of capabilities. If not, they will integrate the best of the capabilities out there. The next one is definitely dynamic application security testing. This is like basically testing it from different angles and having like the checks and balances on the testing for that. And lastly is container security. This one, you don't need it for Salesforce, but it does apply to when you're integrating with AWS and Azure. A lot of times we Salesforce people, because we work at a platform level and a software level, when we are kind of doing an end-to-end testing, we sometimes don't even think about like all the containers, VPCs, and other infrastructure level details that are needed with other technologies. Sometimes when their environment changes, the security changes. And kind of keeping a check on those kind of things, even if it's a checklist, is very important. Maybe it's not your job, but asking the question to them, asking them to include this is your awareness and your job that you should always kind of do. Future of DevSecOps, the three main ones, really are kind of like the shift left testing. I do feel that this is a role that will kind of get created in our environment. It's a developer/tester who's able to kind of do security testing, or it might be a developer who evolves into also security testing and provides that kind of capability, right? The next one is AI and machine learning. I don't want to get into the use cases of it, but tremendous amount of AI and other capabilities to check code, to write code, to also kind of, but there is also the risk of AI where you have to manually, at this particular point at least, check like what security parameter is giving. So a lot of times the AI and security is more about getting a little bit of an insight into what could go wrong. We use a lot of it in like really like forecasting what could be wrong with this code. If we had to scale it, where can we scale it? Which directions can we scale it in? And also like kind of finding defects, but that defect part is more of a testing rather than anything. Lastly, DevSecOps as a service. Think about it. Like these days, right now it is an integrated part of your development process. But there's an opportunity there with DevSecOps as a service. And you provide that to companies at a minimal cost with like some kind of assurance. It could help you with your challenges with the culture, with your clients. So those are the things. Key takeaways at a very high level, DevSecOps is a culture. DevSecOps can only work better with tools. And DevSecOps at a very high level is all about continuous integration and continuous monitoring. And lastly, for the future, whether AI or not, DevSecOps is not going to change. It's going to be needed. It's just going to be done differently. And the people who are keeping up to speed on those things are the vendors who are preparing DevOps tools. Yeah. With that, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed that. And I'll pass it on to Chris, who's the Vice President of Customer Success for Flowsum.
Thank you very much.